Hey, this is Joel with InflatableOffice. I'm going to go over how to set up your email integration today. So if you click on settings in your account, we have a section here under basics called email settings. From here we have two main sections, outgoing email integration, sometimes referred to as SMTP, and incoming integration, which is referred to as IMAP. So the incoming email integration is only necessary if you're using our CRM module, where we can kind of import your emails from your other account you're using to email customers and have them all associated with the customer's event. But if you're not using that and you just are using our software to help send emails to customers, the outgoing integration is helpful. So if you don't have this set up, we attempt to send emails on your behalf to your customers. And so that usually works just fine, but sometimes if you're using like a Yahoo, AOL, or Gmail as your company email account, you may run into issues. Even if you're not, you'll usually find that your emails will get through a little better if you set this up. So usually, let's say you're using Yahoo, for example. If you type in Yahoo SMTP, you'll find instructions on how to do that. So for example, we can hit edit. For Yahoo here, we have this is the name of the server we need. So you can paste it in here. And you want to make sure there's not any spaces at the beginning or the end. For the port number, you can use, typically it's either 25, 587, and every once in a while it's 465. So those are usually the three choices. So if you think you've got everything set up right and it's not working, try swapping those different port numbers. Okay, so we'll use whatever yours is. It's usually like your name. So if we have a bounce house rentals at yahoo.com, right? And then the password for that account. So if you end up changing your email password, you'll have to remember to come in here and switch it as well. Okay, these other settings here, this is to turn it on. So you'll want to activate it. This is for newsletters. Typically, you'll want to leave it off unless you know that your email account can handle bulk emails. Something like Yahoo or Gmail probably can't, so you'll leave it off. If you are using Gmail, we have another integration option you'll want to use there. Otherwise, you can use this section down here. For the email reply address setting, this is if you send if you want the email to be always from your company's email address, then you'll set this to be company email. If you want your individual sales reps to use their own personal email, so when a customer is responding to them, it goes directly to them, then you'll want to probably have it set to that. So most of the time you're going to want to set this to company email, and you want to have this on, this set to no, and then you'll set your settings here. And when you're done, you can always test it. There's a test login button here. They'll attempt to see if it works. And it'll usually say success pretty quickly if everything's good to go. This one I made up an account, so it's probably going to fail. But I've actually got another issue here. I shouldn't have used this port number. One thing to be aware too is if you use the 465 port, sometimes you can put SL in front like this. Oops. 1 second. Sometimes that'll work. This is like a secure port, so you sometimes have to try a combination of that. So that actually worked for this. The only problem was I got an error. It says authentication failure because I have the wrong username and password here. If it had worked, it would have just said success there. So anyway, but you can see here, if I take this off, I can probably use the port 587 for this, and it'll probably end up giving me an authentication error as well. So yeah, same thing. So one other thing to note is if you are using the email reply address as the user, logged in users, so if your sales rep logs in with their own worker account and you have the email reply set to that, then it's not going to use these settings. It's going to use whatever's set on the actual worker. So you can come over here to each worker and do the same thing and set up outgoing authentication with each individual worker. Now, again, you don't need to do this if your email setting is set to reply as the company email. But if you have it set to the logged in worker, then you more than likely will need to set this to for each worker. So that's important to know, because a lot of times it's just different for each email provider. So it all just depends on how your setup is. But yeah, if you have that set up to reply to the worker, logged in user, then you'll need to set the SMTP up on each worker that will be using that setting. If you have it set to company email, then you'll only need to set it up here. And if you're able to send emails without needing to set this up, then you probably don't need to do anything. But you'll notice pretty quickly if you start sending emails and they show up here as bounces, they'll have a reason bounce. Or if you go to a particular event, you can go to the log tab, and if the emails have bounced, it'll say here bounced. It'll have like a reason next to it and stuff like that. So you'll know pretty quickly if you need to configure that stuff. But just wanted to give you a quick walkthrough on how that works. Like I didn't go over the IMAP stuff too much, but if you do set that up and you're using CRM, the IMAP emails will show up in here. You can always see the log of emails you've sent as well here, but if you're using the IMAP integration, you'll see emails that you've sent through your own email program as well. So these ones right here, it says email IO. These are emails I've sent from this, from InflatableOffice. But if I integrate with the IMAP CRM integration, then if I used my Yahoo account to send and receive emails, they would also show up in here as well. And you can click this icon to get a snapshot of what was sent over. Let's see if I can find an example. Any of those other emails. Yeah, here we go. So the purple ones here showing that these were imported from another account. So